Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I'm the senior minister here at the Oasis, and I have this really cool team that God has provided me. I like to start with Faith. Faith has been my assistant since the day she was born. She used to come and sit on the podium while I did announcements, and then later became an usher, handing out affirmation cards, and then became my official assistant like 5 years ago at both this and my other business. So Faith is the one behind the scenes who answers you when you say hi, good morning, hello. And I look back on it just to make sure I don't need to say anything else. But she's grown up 6 blocks away from my house and spent an enormous amount of time at my house. So she knows me pretty darn well. And so usually there's nothing I need to add. So she's also our soloist. And today, good morning, Joey. Today she's going to be doing It's in Every One of Us. I'm so excited about that because I just love that song. So thank you, Faith, for being here. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And then there's my partner in crime, the wise and powerful Oz. Oops, it helps if I get him up here. Sometimes it's hard to coordinate all the things that I need to do. Oz has been with me since 1998. He was with me at the Denver church and then took all of his training with me to become my first baby practitioner, and was served as my board president for, I think it was 7 years. I'm not sure exactly. But then he moved off to Florida, and we couldn't have him at church anymore. And it was really sad for me. And then this technology allowed me to have Oz back with me again. So I'm so pleased that he's here. And he does our pray-ins, our pray-outs, and he's available at the end for our 1-minute miracle. So thank you, Oz, for being here. We love you. And the topic today is be the star of your own show. Or star in your own show, I think is what I titled it, but whatever. You're going to enjoy this topic. It's a really good way for you to start fully participating in your own life. And that's all I'm going to say right now. Say hi, hello, good morning, however you'd like to greet us. When we're in a facility, I can look over and see who's here. And with this technology, unfortunately, I don't have access to that. Hi, Cindy. And so I invite you to say hi, good morning, hello, however you like to greet us, and just let us know that you're here. If you'd like to do a watch party, there is a watch party button. It's a great way for your friends, to know what kind of services that they can find, that they can see when they pop in. And you can talk amongst yourselves back and forth without bothering anybody. So you can answer all of the questions they might have. So click on that watch party and invite all your friends. So I'd like to invite you to close your eyes right now, if that feels comfortable, and allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song. Oop, I'm on the wrong one. Hang on a second. I'm still on Mother's Day for some reason. Got all the Mother's Day songs instead of our normal ones. There we go.
The presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
The presence of God, right here, right now. For God, as we understand it, is infinite and eternal, in everything, as everything. For if God were not, God would not be anything. But we know that God is all there is. And that's how we think of God, as one infinite being that supports and manifests itself in us and in all of life. For God, being omnipotent, must be everywhere, at all times, in all things. We bask in that presence, knowing that an infinite well of goodness is available to each and every one of us at all times. And we tap into that goodness when we acknowledge its presence, and we allow it to be the driving force in our lives. I allow that for myself, and I invite you to allow it into your life as well, knowing that the infinite presence of God manifests itself as you, as me, as everything we see. I give thanks that this presence is here right now, and I let that be. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. This next song is really the basis of our teaching, which is that we are all one. We are connected by it, through it, as it, that it being God. So if you know the words to this song, sing it loud and sing it proud, because you can't bother anybody. And if you don't know it, learn the words to the song, because it's really good to remind ourselves that we are all connected.
We are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing. For God is all there is. Grateful am I to be living, open to what I have seen, honoring what I've been given, sharing now what I believe. I remember the oneness around me. I surrender to infinite light, knowing the love that's surrounding me is within me by day and night. And we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. Yes, we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it.
Surely we are all one in it. So if you are here, say hi, hello, good morning, however you'd like to greet us. Just let us know that you're here. I always like to know who's here. When I'm when I'm in a facility, I can look out and see everybody, but I can't do that here. So I really appreciate knowing who's here. So please do that. Even if you're watching this later, just say something in the comments. Just let me know you dropped by. Okay. All right. Without further ado, if you like something you hear, whether I say it or Faith sings it or Oz prays it, if you like the words, something just really you like, hit that thumbs up button and let us know. We love to get love. So if you love something that you hear, please send us hearts. And of course, if something strikes you as really, really powerful, use the wow button. It gives us that feedback that we really appreciate, because we know that we're on target. So without further ado, here is Faith singing It's in Every One of Us.
And just a heads up, my speaker broke yesterday, so we're going to be doing the a cappella version today. Hope you all enjoy. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, here and now. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, here and now. It's in every one of us. I just remembered, it's like I've been sleeping for years. I'm not awake as I couldn't be, but my seeing's better. I can see through the tears. I've been realizing that I bought this ticket, and I'm watching only half of the show. There is scenery lights and a cast of thousands. We all know what I know, and it's good 'cause it's so. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart and open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, here and now. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, here and now. It's in every one of us, here and now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Faith. It's a brave person who does a cappella. Seriously. You know, because there's nothing anybody focuses on except your voice. So thank you
Yep.
very much.
Thank you.
And somebody loved that. What was, oh, Joey loved that. Okay, cool. Well, I love that song, and there's a reason for it. Especially that one line, you know, we bought the ticket and we're only watching half the show. Because what's really true about our life is a lot of times we're just spectators in our own life, and we're not really watching what's going on around us. We're not really participating in our life. And so today is all about how to participate in your own life, pretty much. There's a, you know, I see a lot of people in my line of work. I still do counseling and that kind of thing. And so almost every issue, whether that's abundance or health or love, all boil down to the same thing. And that is a lack of self-esteem, which is why I teach self-esteem classes. Because I really believe that whatever issue we're experiencing, most of the time it boils down to that one self-esteem issue that keeps us from being able to experience our good. But part of that self-esteem issue is making us close our eyes and not participate. Have you ever gone to the movies and like you either fall asleep at the crucial moment, like the climax of the movie, or you go to the bathroom at all the right parts, and you're talking to somebody later about the movie and they're like, oh, I love that part that blah, 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 and you're like, I don't remember that part. Have you ever felt that way? Well, we do that with our own lives. We fall asleep in the middle of things, kind of close our eyes and just pretend things aren't happening. Or the other part of that is we go absent when we really need to be paying attention. And that's all about that self-esteem, because we feel like we can't handle what's going on. And so we get drunk, or we, some of us use drugs to, alleviate that pain. Some of us, like me, I just leave my body. I'm really famous for just moving right on out of my body. And I've had to practice at keeping myself in my body so I'm present, because that's really what it amounts to, is we have to stay present. And it's a difficult thing to do when we have low self-esteem, because we feel like either we don't deserve it, or we feel like it's something we can't handle. We're not strong enough or powerful enough, or we've given our power away to someone else, or in all of those situations, we're pretty much absent from our own life and we're not fully participating. I love Nathaniel Branden. He wrote a book called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. He is actually one of the pillars of the psychological community as a resource, because he is the utmost authority on self-esteem. And he says in his book, self-esteem is the confidence in our ability to think, confidence in our ability to deal with the basic challenges of life, and confidence in our right to be successful and happy. The feeling of being worthy, deserving, entitled to assert our needs and our wants, to achieve our values, and to enjoy the fruits of our efforts. Now, we're really familiar with that second part, aren't we? But not the first. Confidence in our own ability, or trusting in our own decisions, is a big one. We're really not familiar with that as a definition of self-esteem. We might be familiar with the experience of not trusting our intuition, but what's really true is that a person with good self-esteem does trust their intuition, does trust their decision-making process, because they're in touch with what's within them, and that is God. Okay, God within us. So, I don't know about any of you, but I've had a couple of experiences where I just didn't trust my own intuition. One of my favorite ones what didn't have a terrible consequence was, I was getting ready for work one day, and I put on my business suit and my pantyhose and these 5-inch heels, because back in those days, we're talking early 80s, I think it was. And, I was on my way to work, but first I had to stop at the post office and do one of those pre-sort mailings, drop one of those off. And so I dropped that off, and I'm driving to the office, and my car dies in between, for those of you who are familiar with Denver, my car died in between 225 and Hampton. And not being willing to trust a stranger to pick me up, I walked that entire way, and it's like a good mile, in 5-inch heels, in the heat of summer. It was like July or August, like way hot, in this full business suit and pantyhose and these 5-inch heels. And what was funny was, as I was walking out the door, I saw my tennis shoes sitting by the door as I was walking out, and I thought about taking them, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to the gym afterwards. I don't need them. Had I taken those tennis shoes, my walk would have been so much better. But I overrode the intuitive awareness that I had that maybe I should take my tennis shoes with me, right? And another one that was pretty dire was that I was working at a law firm as a computer consultant, and we were installing a Novell network, and I had like 20 users. And I was working on that all day. And I got to the very last one, and I just had this like thought that flashed through my mind. I should probably save my work. It wasn't like you could just save and go on. Back in those days, it was a process of a good half an hour to save the work and then reopen it. So immediately I dismissed it. I'm like, oh, I have one more user left. I'll be done. And the furnace in the building blew up and the electricity all went off. And I lost 8 hours worth of work because I didn't pay attention to my intuition. And I don't know how many of you have those situations that happen. But it's important for us to not only realize that we're having an intuitive flash, but to pay attention to it and have confidence in it. To know that when your gut feels like something isn't right, it isn't right. I'm not perfect. So I just had another blast of that a couple weeks ago, and I override it. We tend to do that as human doings. We tend to override whatever intuitive flash we're having. And the truth is we're spiritual beings having a human experience, which means we're human doings. But the God part of us, that spirit part of us that lives within us, is the one giving us that intuition. So by not trusting that, we are basically saying no to God, because God's trying to tell us something, right? God within us. So I just wanted to point that out, because it's so important for us to recognize when we have those intuitive flashes and to follow through with them. I remember a story about this guy that was driving home, I think, and he had this like desire, this like overwhelming urge to stop and buy a couple of gallons of milk. And he wasn't really a milk drinker, so he didn't understand it, but he just went with it. And he bought this couple of gallons of milk, and he found himself wanting to go down a different way than he normally goes. And he ended up in front of this house, and he heard this baby just screaming at the top of its lungs. And he knocked on the door and he said, I'm not sure why I'm here. I was just guided to come here. And the woman broke down in tears and said, I don't have enough money to buy milk for my baby. And and so he goes out to the car and he brings her these couple gallons of milk. If we were all willing to follow our intuition to that extent, we would find ourselves at the right time, in the right place to affect a miracle, which is what that was. So I encourage you in this pathway to always follow your intuition. Always follow. If you're a feeler, you'll get a gut feeling. Just follow that intuition that you have. He continues by saying, nothing is more common than to pursue self-esteem by means that will not and cannot work. Instead of seeking self-esteem through consciousness, responsibility, and integrity, we seek it through popularity, material acquisitions, or sexual exploits. Instead of valuing personal integrity, we value belonging to the right clubs or the right church or the right political party. And instead of practicing appropriate self-assertion, we may practice uncritical compliance to one particular group. Any of that sound familiar? Like the protests, or, how many people were rioting and looting because they were practicing uncritical compliance to the group that wanted civil war, for example. Or, I'm not on one side or the other. I just know that these groups have a credo that they live by and are forcing the issue with their uncritical compliance to that credo. And so we wind up with all of this violence that is totally unnecessary just because somebody told them that would be a good thing to do. And again, if we're trusting our intuition, if we're really checking in with what feels good, we would know that that's not going to happen. That's not a good thing, right? And it's not about a political party, one or the other. It's not about a group, on either side of the violent issue. It's not, Black Lives Matter. It's not Antifa. It's not, the people who are anti-Antifa and anti-Black Lives Matter. It's not that. It's not really that. What it really is that no matter what group you belong to, you need to practice critical thinking. One of my mentors, Dr. Fred Vogt, used to say, we don't ask you to leave your brain in the parking lot. We want you to do critical thinking. We want you, we say this is a laboratory of life. So prove these principles to yourself. Think your way through it. Be critically thinking about whether this makes sense to you or not, which is very different from faith healing, by the way. Faith healing says, you believe this, I won't give you a reason. You just have to believe it because I say to believe it. And if you have faith, you will believe it. We say, okay, believe it and then prove it to yourself so you have faith in it, right? And we treat everything like it's a laboratory of life. So we don't ask you to ever just believe us. We ask you to go out and prove it in your own life, because that's the only way to achieve true faith, where you know it in every cell of your body that this is the truth, right? There's always doubt if somebody just says, believe it, and you go, okay, I'll believe it. And then all of a sudden you start having those doubts show up. But if you know why you're believing in something, if you really truly prove it to yourself, then every cell of your body is going to reflect the faith that you have about that. So Nathaniel Branden continues, instead of seeking self-esteem through honesty, we may seek it through philanthropy. I must be a good person. I do good works. Instead of striving for the power of confidence, the ability to achieve genuine values, we may pursue the power of manipulating or controlling other people. The possibilities for self-deception are almost endless. All the blind alleys down which we can lose ourselves, not realizing that what we desire cannot be purchased with counterfeit currency. Does that sound familiar? You know, so many of us think that, you know, if I wear the right clothes, or if I, you know, wear the right lipstick, or, you know, these commercials on TV, buy this car and all the women will be swarming all over you, or drink this beer and, you know, you will have women coming out of the woodwork for you. Wear the right lipstick and men will be smitten. Wear the right perfume and guys will come from, you know, way far away just to be in your presence. And one of the things that happens with these groups is that, you know, they wear a certain thing, or they dress a certain way, or they, you know, act a certain way. And in our uncritical compliance, we start adopting that. So we start wearing the same clothes. We start wearing, you know, tattoos are one of those things, piercings, those kind of things. You know, my friends are all doing it, I'm going to do it too. Or, you know, wearing this kind of dress, or listening to this kind of music, or any of those things. You know, and we like to think we're unique, and we are unique. But as soon as we uncritically just follow along with a group and start wearing what they're wearing, or doing what they're doing, or listening to what they're listening to, once we do that, then there's sort of a counterfeit sense to who we are, right? And it opens us to being kind of a feeling like we're imposters, right? Because we're not truly being ourselves. We're not allowing ourselves to just be who we are. I've been working on my mantra for the last month and a half has been let go of control, because I realized that all of my pain was coming from my wanting to control situations, not really people necessarily, but when my friend was sick and in the hospital and then died, you know, I was not in control of any of that. And I wanted so badly to be in control of that. And so I found myself having to adopt the mantra of let go of control. And then when Vincent took Duchess, I wanted to control the situation. I wanted to be in control of it. And so I had to stay with that mantra. And then when I didn't get that dog that I wanted, I had to stay in control of stay in that mantra of I release control, I give up control. And so that's been my mantra for the last month and a half. And what I'm finding as I'm going through that is that I'm finding who I am a lot better, because all of that needing to control everything has really covered up who I am in essence, who is at the heart of me, who I really am. So Nathaniel Branden continues and he says, self-esteem is an intimate experience. It resides in the core of one's being. It is what I think or feel about myself, not what anyone else feels or thinks about me. This simple fact can hardly be overemphasized. I can be loved by my family, by my mate, and my friends, and yet not love myself. I can be admired by my associates, but then regard myself as worthless. I can project an image of assurance and poise that fools almost everyone, and yet secretly tremble with a sense of my own inadequacy. I can fulfill the expectations of others. I can win every honor, yet feel like I accomplished nothing. I can be adored by millions and yet wake up each morning with a sickening sense of fraudulence and emptiness. Any of that sound familiar? I talk a lot about Princess Diana because of that experience that she had. You know, when she died, millions of people watched her funeral and cried. And we were all sad for the loss of her. Yet while she was alive, one of her family members said she never truly felt loved. And I always think, you know, if Princess Diana, with so many people that adored her, could not feel that love, then the rest of us, you know, have to have some extent of that. And that's that self-esteem piece of it, that, you know, we think that somehow we're not loved, or that we don't deserve to be healthy, or that we don't deserve prosperity. And yet the truth about us is our very vibration is that. And so, yes, we do deserve all of that. So he sums it up here to say, to attain success without attaining positive self-esteem is to be condemned to feeling like an imposter, anxiously awaiting exposure. Now, I have to tell you that when I first got into the ministry, I had a really bad case of imposter syndrome. I would sit and I would read my sermons from top to bottom. I couldn't even hardly look up at the audience because I almost felt like I didn't deserve to be up there. And as I grew into this position, let's put it that way, into this field, as I grew into it, I started realizing more and more that even though I'm a human doing, I have that within me that urges me forward, which is God in action inside of me. And that is the deservedness that I have for this calling, is that God within me said, you're going to be a minister. And I at first fought it and then succumbed to it with the feelings of being an imposter, and then grew into it, recognizing that it was God within me that wanted this. And so I deserve it. And I have the credentials. I have everything I need to actually do this job. And so I don't have those imposter feelings so much anymore. Every now and then they'll creep in. But if any of that sounds familiar, any of it at all, then self-esteem is a core issue that you're dealing with. And nothing in your life can change until this changes, until you deal with the issue. See, I think that's the major cause of us falling asleep and only watching half the show, because we don't feel like we have the right to participate in our own life. It's like, okay, this is something I can't have, so I'm just going to go unconscious for a while, and it won't be part of my reality. And it's what keeps us from seeing the big R reality beyond the little r reality, the one we have our conditions in, our experiences. And behind everything is a spiritual reality that is God. You will notice I refer to that as the big R reality, because it is our spiritual reality. It is behind all of those little r things. For instance, we go along thinking we experience poverty and we say that's our reality. It's the little r reality. Or we have ill health and we say that's the reality, little r reality. Or we have a bad relationship and we think that's the reality. The truth is there is a greater big R reality beyond that, that there is something behind that that is greater than that. There is prosperity behind the poverty. There is love behind the bad relationship. There is a blueprint. Our DNA is coded with a blueprint of health that is behind that ill health. So this isn't the total experience. It's just one condition that can be overcome. And I've talked a little bit about that DNA blueprint. But I really want to say at this point, please note that our DNA is encoded not only with health, but with prosperity, abundance, with love. There was an experiment done by this guy that took DNA and extrapolated it into a mathematical sequence. And his wife, who was a musician, took that mathematical sequence and created music from it. You know, math and music are related very closely. And she made music out of it, and it sounded very much like Brahms' Lullaby, like all of the greats. And what they distilled that down to is that our DNA is encoded with love, because that was love music that came out of the DNA sequencing. So the big R reality is God's love that operates through us. And when we overcome the reality of this world, because we stop judging it, we start looking towards the reality of God, we begin to experience more of that and experience less of the self-esteem kind of stuff that comes up. You know, I love that 12-step prayer. It's really cool because, you know, there in life, there's just no right or wrong. There only is what is. And we judge it as right or wrong. But the truth is that life just is. So this prayer is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Because we always think the things that we cannot change is what we want to change. And the things that we can change, we think, oh, I don't want to change that. Or I'd rather change this over here that can't be changed. For instance, what can't be changed? For instance, the past. You can't go back and change the past. It happened the way it happened. It just was, right? We can go back to our feelings about it, and we can change our feelings about it, but we can't change the actual occurrence that happened. And if we've had a bad relationship in the past, we can change our relationship to that person in the current experience. Not by getting back in touch with that person, but by changing the inside of ourselves, by looking at our self-esteem issues, by working with our limiting beliefs, by working with why we created a situation like that based on our beliefs about ourselves, our self-esteem, our low self-esteem, right? But we can't go back and change the past itself. We can't. The only thing that we can do is say, okay, well, it happened, and I want to make changes in the present. So going back and wanting to make changes in the past instead of dealing with what's going on in the present doesn't work for me. So that means I have to take responsibility for where I'm at right now. And we have to live in that present moment and not go unconscious, right? And so this means we live in that present moment and go, okay, here's where I blew it. Here's what I need to do to fix it. Now I'm going to do that. So that's why I love that serenity prayer, because we cannot go back and change the past. We need to know what it is that cannot be changed. We need to know that we can't change that. We also need to know what we can change and have the courage to change it, because so many times the stuff that can be changed, like our going unconscious or our feelings of inadequacy, all of those things, we don't want to change because we're deriving some benefit to it from it. Not a benefit that we consciously get, but subconsciously we are benefiting somehow from those beliefs and those feelings. And so we try to hold on to those. So we have to have the courage to change those things. And then we have to have the wisdom to know what can be changed and what can't, the difference between the two. So that's why I love that serenity prayer. And when I can do that, I can see beyond the circumstances to a greater reality. Then I can create the life I really want, because I understand what I'm changing. I'm not changing the circumstance. I'm not changing the other person. I'm not changing anything in my outer world. What I'm changing is something within me. And when I change that, when I change the thoughts or beliefs that have created this reality, I am now free to experience what I want to have. Now, I'm not saying hatred doesn't exist, poverty doesn't exist, illness doesn't exist. We don't deny that in religious science. We're not deniers. We don't say that they don't exist. What we deny is that they have any power over us, because the minute we give power to poverty, we no longer have any avenues for the prosperity to come to us. The minute we give power over to ill health, we no longer have an avenue to get back to the healthy place. And the minute we give over our power to hatred, then love can't come through us. I always say, if you build a wall so that you don't get hurt, you've built that wall, not only keeping the hate out or not only keeping the hurt out, but now you've built a wall that love can't even get through, right? And so we don't protect ourselves that way. What we do is we keep ourselves from participating in our life. And when we give our power over to hatred and love can't come through us, it's because love and hate can't exist in the same body. So we have to let go of the hatred in order for God's love to move through us, right? And we've been so busy all our lives giving our power away. And religious science is all about reclaiming our power, saying in this moment, I'm willing to be powerful. I'm willing to see that greater reality beyond this circumstances. I'm willing to accept that as my true reality. There's this lady, I've talked about this either last week or the week before, Esther Hicks, who channels an entity named Abraham. And I've been listening to her talks on tape for, years. Somebody loaned me her library years ago, and I listened to them all and then returned them. And each time I listen to them, I hear something different, which is pretty natural. I've read the same book over and over again and found new things in the book each time I read it. But one of the things, hi, Fred, Kathy, and Marlene, it's 11:11, that power, that time where everyone is connected, the other world and this world. Anyway, so every time I listen to her, or him, I should say, because she channels this entity named Abraham, who's a non-physical entity. Every time I hear him talk, and the same lecture, I hear something different. And one of the things that hit me most powerfully, most recently, because I had listened to him before say, your money, your perfect mate, your health, all of that is in this vortex that you have trouble getting into. And all you have to do is enter the vortex in order to get it. But this last time, what I heard him say was that we're already in the vortex. The difference is our thoughts and our feelings keep us from experiencing the vortex, because we still, even though we're sitting in this vortex and everything is all around us that we've ever asked for is right there, just absolutely waiting for us to open up to it, can't get in because we're so busy thinking about poverty and hatred and this relationship that we had that went south, or this person that died. And, we're so focused on that. And if we have a health issue, we're focused on that health issue. And as long as we're doing that, we take our consciousness out of that vortex, even though we as a being are still in that vortex. We are not open to receiving that which is in the vortex with us, because we've taken our conscious mind out of the vortex, and it can't open to that which is there for us to receive. So the only key to entering into the vortex, our mind, is a willingness to focus our time and attention on that and not on the things in life that we don't want. So when we become aware of this greater R reality, we become aware of the vortex that he's talking about, and we spend all of our time in that vortex. Do I spend 100% of the time? No. But we have access to those things that we've been praying about that God has already provided the answer to, which, the answer is always yes. So all the things we prayed for are there in the vortex, and all we have to do is be willing to keep our consciousness in the vortex. And all we have to do is keep entering our conscious mind into that vortex over and over and over. And the minute we get out of it, we say, no, I want back in. No, I want back in. It's been interesting to watch my process as I've been listening to it. Again, that whole thing about control. Nope, I release control. Buddy, honey, I'm talking. Buddy would like to say something. I'm not sure what. Is it because of the control? I don't know. He likes to participate. But this process of me saying, no, I give up control has all been about me entering my consciousness right back into the vortex. Because as long as I'm worried, remember that worry is the most negative form of prayer you can do. As long as I'm worried about the outcome of any of these things I've been worried about, my consciousness is no longer in the vortex, and I lose the ability to create the big R reality that I want to have. And so I say that because I want us to be focused this week on do it. If you want to use my mantra, feel free. I mean, if you want to say, no, I release control, or being in the moment, you want to feel the feelings that you need to feel, but you don't have to pitch a tent there. You can move. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't pitch a tent there. I walk through. And when you get to the other end of it, after you've felt the feelings in the present moment, now you move into that space of releasing control or just being present. Can you do that with me this week? Can you be present? Because truly God is within us. So one of the things that I like to say in starring in your own show is about is about listening to your own song. Remember what I was talking about, your intuition and being willing to follow it. You have to be quiet enough to hear your own song. I had this friend named Reverend Paula Riddle years ago who's passed on, but she had this company called One Song Productions because she said this is the universe, one voice. So she used to say One Life Productions was her life force. I thought she was cool because she really had a different way of thinking about God and time space travel. She was just amazing at. We would leave at the same time and travel the same path, and she would get there before me. But it was about her thinking about God time, that she gets there in God time. Anyway, why do we feel out of step with our life? Because we're not listening to our own inner song. So there's 5 parts to our own inner song. The first is spending time in meditation and prayer, because they're the key to that. Because if we listen to the vibration within us that says, this is the life in me, it is greater than any little R reality. It is greater than any of my friends or my coworkers, this group that I belong to. Anything more than is God. And if we spend time cultivating a relationship with that God within us, if we spend time listening for it, we begin to act in accordance with that, which is within us, instead of acting in accordance with what the world wants of us. We stop wearing the clothes. We stop getting the tattoos and the piercings. We stop wearing the right lipstick or the right perfume or the right cologne or drinking the right beer or listening to the right music. We stop all of those behaviors and really tune in to what it is our spiritual being wants us to be. The second part is rhythm. I've got rhythm, but it's my own. And most of the stress in life is trying to match a different rhythm, be a different rhythm than we actually are. That's what heart attacks and strokes are made of, is that stress. There are people who go at a turtle's pace and the world keeps telling them, no, you don't need to, you need to speed up. This is what it means to be successful. People like Lynn. Lynn has like 3 modes: slow, slower, and slowest. And that's his rhythm. That's who he is. And, you can't ask a person like that to speed up, because then they lose their natural rhythm. You want them to be in their natural rhythm. And then there's Bill Francoeur. He was 100 miles an hour kind of guy. And I'm not saying that you don't ask people to meditate and pray, because I think taking time for meditation and prayer, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes a day, will ultimately help reduce the stress. But you can't take a person like Bill Francoeur and tell him to sit in a chair for 2 or 3 hours. That would not have worked. Because he was, what they call a type A personality, and he was always on the run. My neighbor next door is very much like that. He is constantly in motion, and he can't stand it, even when they got this new puppy. And the puppy runs and runs and runs and runs, and then collapses and takes a nap. And he goes over there, "Oh, you lazy dog, come on, get up," because he can't stand anybody just resting, But he goes 100 miles an hour. You can't tell him to stop and take a break for 2 or 3 hours. That would cause that same stress conditions that would happen in Lynn if people told him to speed up. So What I'm saying is that your life force is geared towards a pace, a rhythm, and you need to honor that in your everyday life. You can't slow down for the rest of the world, nor can you speed up for the rest of the world. You have to honor what that rhythm is about for you. The third one is name that tune. Now, some people are like a little light tune, repetitive and easy, like row, row, row your boat. And others are very complex melodies, like the Requiem, for instance, that happened inside of Mozart before it ever got onto paper. That's a very convoluted piece of music, but that is so him. We all have our own tune. And when Mozart heard that Requiem in his mind, or the Marriage of Figaro, he knew it was his inner voice. So we need to find our inner voice, because that is spirit within us. We can't live our melody fully and beautifully unless we're willing to take time to listen to the song within us and give it everything we've got. And as we listen to our melody, we begin to appreciate our own song. We give ourselves permission. So harmony is the fourth piece. And I used to have this friend that was really into Nordic mythology. And it was all about the world being a tapestry, and each one of us being a thread in that tapestry. And there were hunters who protected the weave, and there were weavers that actually weaved the threads together. But we were all connected because we're all threads. Every being, whether it's animal or human, is a thread in this tapestry. When you recognize that we are all one, and we are all connected by it, through it, as it, that God is that thing that flows through everyone. When you recognize that we are this tapestry of life, we are threads in this tapestry, and we're all connected. If you fold that tapestry over, it lays upon itself, right? So it's always touching us. When you recognize that God flows through us like a watermark on a page, then you understand how harmonious life works together, right? There can't be inharmony in a world where we are all celebrating that. When people don't recognize that we are all connected, they feel free to perpetuate violence against another person, because they don't realize that by perpetuating that violence against another person, they are calling it back to themselves, right? Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, said that we create more of what we think about. And we attract more of whatever it is that we're focused on. We attract that back to us. That's the true meaning of karma, that there's a law of cause and effect that says, if I do this, that's what's going to come back into my life. Not if I hurt this person, they're going to hurt me back. That's not the true meaning of karma. The true meaning of karma is understanding that what we give out comes back to us. So we do it not because we're going to go to heaven or hell, not because, we want to control things, not because of anything other than we want our life to be as harmonious as possible. So we focus on harmony, and everything that is inharmonious stays away from us. And then the final thing is words. We have to be careful of the words that we use, because words are very powerful. We don't want to say we're sick and tired, or we're sick of something, or we're tired of something. We don't want to say, we don't want to be in indecision or doubt or fear. We don't want to talk about those things. We want to talk about what we want to attract to us. We want to talk about prosperity. We want to talk about love, not the love from another person, because you can't count on another person. But we focus on the love of God. Everybody has free will, so the other person cannot fulfill what we need. The only thing that can fulfill what we need is within us. That is the God love within us. And when we count on that, we attract to us the perfect partner. We keep our thoughts focused on what it means to be healthy. What can I do when I'm healthy, right? So this week, think about how it is you want to live your life. Listen to the heartbeat of your soul. Listen to the music that is within you. We've got rhythm, we've got music, we've got our God. Who could ask for anything more? Let's have a prayer. In this moment beyond time and space, I do recognize the powerfulness that God implements in this world. Because God is all there is, all there ever has been, all there ever will be, only God. And God is more powerful than anything I can imagine. More beautiful, more loving, more absolute beauty, power, and influence. I can't even fathom with my human consciousness how big that is, how big God is in and through life. And so that's where I find myself, in the midst of God, my very essence, my very life, my very being. It is who and what I am, and every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that one wisdom of the ages that is God within me, flowing through me. I know that same truth to be so for this wonderful team that God has provided for me, for Lynn and for Tina and for Faith and for Karen and for Elaine and for Oz. I think I said Faith. For we are connected by it, through it, as it. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that same infinite power of God that flows through all of life. So I know that same truth to be so for each person watching this, whether that be in real time or later on. For there is no place where one leaves off and the other begins. We are all one. Mitaku Yasin. All my brethren, we are one. So this coming week, I know, is filled with opportunities to focus our attention on God. And as we do that, our consciousness stays in the vortex, and everything we have been desiring, for every prayer we have ever uttered, for every manifestation we have ever worked on, we are now open to it, and it flows into us like a rush of the sea, a rush of the ocean, flowing into us here and now. And as we open to it, we experience love and prosperity and health in such measures that I cannot even comprehend at this moment. So I know that same truth to be so for each name that is in the ministry of prayer today, because no matter what condition is being experienced right here, God is the power that is more powerful than that and rises up to provide the experience that we desire. And anything unlike that just falls back into the nothingness from which it came. So I pull back the veil now and I reveal that God truth underneath it all. I call it good and very good, and I claim it in their names here and now as done. My heart fills with gratitude to know that it is done and claimed. And I just let it be. And so it is. Amen. My goodness, we're going over again. I must be getting more long-winded as I go. I'm sorry. I really apologize for that. This is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to express your gratitude for that which you have seen in the physical reality and that which you have not seen yet, that you may have created in that vortex in the mind of God, but you haven't seen it in the physical reality yet. So you're going to go to www.oasiscsl.org, and about 2/3 down the page, in a minute, I'm going to ask you to do our offering affirmation with us. But underneath that is the Contribute Now button. Let me say just really quickly that what you're contributing to is not a facility rent. It's not utilities. It's not salaries. You are contributing to this message, uplifting and inspiring the world, because we're doing a global outreach, because I think that the power of God is so powerful and uplifts so many of us that I want that message to get through to people in other countries that may not hear that message all the time. So it does take money to do that. So please go with me now to, whether you're watching in real time or you're doing this later, you can do it along with us, now is the time. Go to www.oasiscsl.org. About 2/3 down the page is our offering affirmation. Please say that with me right now. This perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive. And so it is. Hit that contribute now button and let's inspire and uplift the entire world. Okay. All right. We have this wonderful team of licensed practitioners that we like to call the God Squad. Our licensed practitioners are from coast to coast, and they are available for prayer every day. Gosh, all of a sudden I can't think. Our God Squad takes those prayers that you have asked for and prays on those every day for a week. So if you would like prayer for something, please in the comments section, put what you would like prayer for. If you don't want it to be public, you can direct message Faith or myself, and we will make sure that it gets onto the private facing group page for our God Squad. And if you want to be a member of the God Squad, you don't for that purpose, you don't necessarily have to be a licensed practitioner. You do, however, have to agree to do only affirmative prayer. No beseeching, no asking, no begging. We do only affirmative prayer, and you do it every day for a week and keep those requests confidential. Those are the 3 things that qualify you. So if you want to be part of that, type yes in the comments section and we'll add you to that page. If you'd like to be part of our greater community, you can type more. That is our online community, which will allow us to broadcast to you those things that we are doing in advance of the world getting to know what we do. So if we have an event, you'll know first. So if you'd like to do that, type more in the comments section, and Faith will add you to that public-facing group page. So Oz is available at the end of this for what we call our 1-minute miracle. It's not a time for counseling, but it is a time where you can share with him whatever condition you are experiencing, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right then and there. So you reach out to him by video chat. If you don't get him right away, please know that he's on the phone with someone else, and call back a little bit later and he will assist you. All right. And our licensed practitioners are available by appointment for a fee for spiritual guidance as well. So get on the website, check out our practitioners. You can reach them through Facebook. Reach out to them, let them know you'd like an appointment. They'll make an appointment with you. They'll arrange for a way for you to pay, whether that be with PayPal or Venmo or Cash App or Wise, however they want to set that up. I don't get involved in any of that. And then at your appointed time, they will video chat you. All right. I am going to forego most of the rest of the announcements that we normally do because we're running out of time and I don't want to keep you any longer. Just know that you can go to our website and check us out, see what kind of events, see the people that have attended those events. And you can get video sermons from the last couple of years. You can get audio sermons from years prior. Check us out on YouTube and SoundCloud. YouTube has the videos. SoundCloud has the audios under S. Tucker. All right. And I think I'm going to, let's see. All right. So we're going to do our last song right now. If you know the words, sing it loud, sing it proud. If you don't, get this stuck in your head because it is a blessing to sing this song.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And I know the blessings spread forth in our lives, and I accept those blessings for the highest and best good for each involved. We'll see you here next week, and thank you for coming, and see you then. So it is.
And so it is.
It
Thank you,
is.
Oz. We love you. There's 1,000 things you could be doing on a Sunday. We're glad you were here with us. Make sure and join us at 10:30 every Sunday morning Mountain Time. Especially next week, we're going to have a real special service. And so please join us, and we will see you next week. Stay safe. Wear a mask. We love you. Bye.
Mhm.